In the wake of that horrendous murder of those 3 girls in Southport last summer, just 24 hours afterwards, there was a huge amount of speculation about who the suspected murderer was. I put out this video and I asked this basic question.
I have to say there are 1 or 2 questions. Was this guy being monitored by the security services? Some reports say he was, others less sure. I just wonder whether the truth is being withheld from us. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it is a fair and legitimate question.
So I asked the question, was he known to the authorities? No answer came from the police. No answer came from the Prime Minister. No answer came from the Home Secretary. And for daring to ask a question that the public deserved to know and should have known, and actually had they known, might have stopped much of the online speculation that led to rioting on the scale that we saw. No, nothing was forthcoming at all. I was even told I wasn't allowed to ask a question in the House of Commons about the identity of this man and whether he was known. Well, I was right all along. 3 times this young man was given to prevent. They clearly haven't acted correctly. It seems that other members of his family knew what his intentions were, and we have had one of the worst cover-ups I think I've ever seen in my lifetime. I was completely vilified for daring to ask these questions. This is 2-tier policing. This is 2-tier governmental approach to who lives in this country. It is an outrage, and I can tell you, actually, I'm angrier today than I've been at any point since those horrendous murders.
Nigel Farage's speech reflects deep dissatisfaction with how the authorities and security services handled the case of the murder of 3 girls in Southport. He raises several critical issues, beginning with the question of whether the suspect was being monitored by security services prior to the crime. This is a legitimate inquiry, as any prior knowledge of the suspect's intentions without appropriate action represents a grave failure of the security system. Farage argues that not only did the authorities fail to provide answers, but they also appeared to deliberately remain silent, further fueling public suspicion and outrage. A central theme in Farage's speech is his frustration with the lack of accountability from those in power. He highlights how the police, the Prime Minister, and the Home Secretary all failed to answer whether the suspect was known to the authorities. This lack of transparency not only undermines public trust, but also exacerbates speculation and unrest on social media, which, according to Farage, contributed to large-scale riots. He insists that these events could have been prevented if the government had been more forthcoming and transparent. Farage also points out the failures of the PREVENT program, a counter-extremism initiative, noting that the suspect had been referred to the program 3 times without appropriate action being taken. This underscores systemic inefficiencies in detecting and managing potential threats. He further emphasizes that other members of the suspect's family allegedly knew of his intentions, highlighting a lack of communication and effective intervention from both the community and the authorities. Finally, Farage strongly criticizes what he perceives as a 2-tier approach to policing and governance, suggesting that the system operates inconsistently across different groups within the country. This is a severe condemnation of the government, as it implies favoritism or neglect that has led to devastating consequences. Farage's speech is not only a call for transparency and accountability, but also a warning about the potential dangers of eroding trust between citizens and public institutions. By leveraging this tragic event, he underscores the urgent need for reforms in security systems and governance. His message serves as a reminder that transparent and consistent actions from authorities are essential to maintain public trust and prevent further tragedy.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's to be hoped that, as has been previously referred to, President Trump can indeed bring additional significant pressure on the dictator Putin to end this horrific war. But can the Foreign Secretary give some additional reassurance to the British people that whilst we've been essentially investing and spending billions and billions of pounds on supporting Ukraine, that we are committed to recovering this from the frozen assets of the Russian state in due course.
Well, I know that the honourable gentleman understands history, and he will know that after the Second World War, as a result of Lend-Lease, we were in quite a lot of debt to the United States. It took us many years to pay off. Well, Mr. Speaker, today our trading relationship is no bigger than with the United States, over 300 billion, with 1.2 trillion invested in each other's economy, and 1 million British people working in US companies and 1 million US working in UK companies. This partnership sets up something similar for the next 100 years. That is the result of war, but it's brought our two nations together. And he's absolutely right to centre also, how can we use those Russian assets better? That is a matter of close discussion across the European family.
The exchange between Richard Tice and the Foreign Secretary highlights key issues in British foreign policy, particularly the financial and strategic dimensions of the UK's support for Ukraine amidst its ongoing conflict with Russia. Richard Tice raises a critical point, voicing the concerns of the British public regarding the vast sums of money, billions of pounds, that the UK has invested in aiding Ukraine. His emphasis on the need for reassurance that these expenditures will eventually be recovered from frozen Russian state assets reflects a pragmatic stance. This is a valid concern, especially in a time of economic pressures, where citizens expect accountability and tangible outcomes from significant government spending. The Foreign Secretary's response, while comprehensive and grounded in historical context, offers an intriguing perspective by invoking the legacy of the Second World War and the Lend-Lease program. He reminds the audience of the substantial debt the UK owed to the United States post-war, which took decades to repay. While this historical comparison underscores the resilience and long-term benefits of international alliances, it may not entirely address the immediacy of the concerns raised by Tice. The Foreign Secretary shifts the focus to the profound economic partnership between the UK and the US, citing impressive statistics: over $300 billion in trade, $7.2 trillion in mutual investments, and the employment of millions of citizens on both sides of the Atlantic. This framing suggests that alliances forged in the context of war can lead to enduring economic and strategic benefits. However, the response also serves to underline the complexity of the issue at hand. The Foreign Secretary acknowledges the necessity of leveraging frozen Russian assets, but points out that such actions require careful coordination and discussion within the European family. This highlights the intricate interplay of international law, diplomacy, and shared responsibility in addressing the financial dimensions of the Ukraine crisis. It's clear that the UK cannot unilaterally act on this matter without risking its standing among allies and within international frameworks. While the Foreign Secretary's speech eloquently situates the current crisis within a broader historical and geopolitical narrative, it arguably falls short of delivering specific, actionable solutions. The comparison to Lend-Lease, although symbolically powerful, may feel disconnected from the immediate financial and strategic challenges of today. The British public, especially those critical of the government's significant financial commitments to Ukraine, are likely seeking concrete assurances on how these investments will be recovered and the timeline for doing so. The absence of detailed plans or frameworks for utilizing frozen Russian assets could leave the impression of ambiguity and uncertainty, undermining the overall message of reassurance. Moreover, the focus on the long-term benefits of the UK-US partnership, while valuable, may not fully resonate with those who are primarily concerned with the short-term economic impacts on British taxpayers. The broader context of international cooperation, as mentioned by the Foreign Secretary, is essential, but it must be complemented by a clear articulation of immediate priorities and strategies to address the financial burdens of war support. This would not only strengthen public confidence, but also ensure greater transparency and accountability. In conclusion, the exchange between Tice and the Foreign Secretary underscores the delicate balance between historical reflection, international cooperation, and the need for immediate pragmatic policy responses. While the Foreign Secretary effectively highlights the enduring value of alliances and the shared burden among European nations, his response could benefit from a stronger focus on concrete plans for asset recovery and financial accountability. For the British public, reassurance lies not just in historical parallels or grand narratives, but in clear, actionable steps that demonstrate how their government intends to navigate the complex challenges posed by the ongoing war in Ukraine. Thanks for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the content. Share your feedback in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with our latest videos. Also, join our free Telegram group link in the description for uncensored discussions on important issues.